Oh, yeah. Is it Thursday already? Okay, the Rey movie just seems to be getting all the news for the last 2 weeks, as Daisy Ridley is on a press tour for her new movie. So, all these interviews, questions being asked about the Rey movie and about the next phase of the Star Wars universe after the Skywalker saga, seems to be the highlight. However, what she said in her latest interview has got the fandom going. People talking about this being a terrible answer to the question, and we got to alert the media. Everybody scream from the top of their lungs, this is bad news. This is the end of Star Wars. No. No. Also, we got to talk about the latest tease at a new Clone Wars spin-off animated series. And of course, Andor Season 2. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? What's up, chat? All right, so yes, the whole Rey movie news has got the people going. It's got the fandom always going. Anything that has to do with the sequel trilogy, anything they can latch onto, seems to be the worst news ever created. So the bad news on the thumbnail of today's live stream is more so just what the Star Wars fandom in the media seems to be calling this bad news. Honestly, it's not. We're going to dive into what she said, why she said it, what it means, and why it's absolutely 100% correct and a fact. But before we do that, let's say hi to everybody in the chat, shall we? We also got the next Star Wars animated TV show possibly being teased at in a new Bad Batch story. Some pretty cool stuff actually going on today, or at least over the last couple of days, in Star Wars world. And Andor Season 2, of course, is now, 68 days away, something like that. And still no trailer. Still no trailer. But there is a little bit of good news in the Andor Season 2 front, as the StarWars.com official website has changed just a little bit. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's say hi to everybody in the chat, shall we? Brandon Baker, what is up? 50 Thunder, how we doing? Star Wars Order, what is up? Inklet, how we doing? Holly, how we doing? Stanley in the house. Star Wars Politics just hit 1,000 subscribers, not 100, 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations to him. Can we get some congratulations to Star Wars Democracy in the chat, please? Okay. C. Lee, what's up? Justin, how we doing? Haja in the house. Navarro, how we doing? John Groom, what is up? Chris, what is up? If I missed you, you know the deal. Just yell at me in the chat. Let's give everybody a nice little
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Okay, so we got to start with the Rey news. It seems to be getting completely blown up out of proportion. What Daisy Ridley said in this interview, yes, it's important, but it's important for all the wrong reasons that we're talking about, at least online. She's talking about Star Wars being political, and people hear political and only think about the real world politics, and immediately it goes boom, and everything goes crazy, and people lose their minds. But that is not what we were talking about today. We were talking about the politics in Star Wars. Now, we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago when George Nolfi had something to say about Star Wars being political as well. And nobody seemed to have a problem with that. But when Daisy Ridley says it, the actress who plays Rey, then we seem to have a little bit of a problem in the Star Wars fandom. Now, obviously, a lot of this comes from the fact that the Rey character is not that beloved by Star Wars fans. And the sequel trilogy itself is a completely divided topic, to say the least. So whenever she says anything that fans can latch onto, they're going to. So Daisy Ridley is on this press tour for her new movie, and things just kind of get spiraling out of control sometimes. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. What does she really say? Is it really that big of a deal? And what does she mean when she talked about the political side of Star Wars? So let's talk about it, shall we? And first things first, I want to put up a poll in the chat because I'm very interested to see where you guys are at when it comes to the Rey movie. Right now, this new Jedi Order movie is still a ways away. The next Star Wars movie is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that will release on May 22nd, 2026, next year. And then after that, we don't even know if the Rey movie will be the next film. There's talks that Sean Levy's movie will be the next one to go into production. There's also talks that James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi is a lot further along than we ever could have possibly imagined, as Mr. Willimon and him have almost a completed first script, which is pretty wild. So we don't know what's the next Star Wars movie after The Mandalorian and Grogu. It could be any number of those three I just mentioned, or even another one. We don't know. So when we get the Rey movie is still completely up in the air, but it seems to be the front headlines because it just got a new writer and Daisy Ridley's talking about all this Star Wars stuff in interviews, so it seems to be the big news. But I want to put up a poll in the chat because it's not anywhere close to the time of the release of this movie, but I want to know where you guys are at in terms of excitement level for a new Jedi Order movie. A movie about Rey, or with Rey in it, about the next generation of Jedi in the galaxy without the First Order, without the Empire, without a Sith Lord in the galaxy. So let's put this up in a poll. Are you excited for the Rey movie? Yes or no? And tell me in the chat. Tell me in the chat, how excited are you really for this movie? Now, the fact that it's so far away hurts the excitement level for me personally. I'm far more excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I'm far more excited for even, of course, Andor Season 2, which is right around the corner, but Ahsoka Season 2 and whatever the next animated Star Wars show could be, which we're talking about today as well. The Dawn of the Jedi movie. But here's the deal. The Rey movie, whatever it's going to look like, is going to be the first ever project in a post-Skywalker saga era. Post-sequel trilogy, post-Luke Skywalker, post-Anakin Skywalker. For the first time, there is no Empire. There is no First Order. There is no Palpatine. He's not somehow returning again. We are in a galaxy without Palpatine for the first time ever in Star Wars. So what that looks like is going to be extremely interesting, and that's what excites me about this movie. Now, obviously, you could talk about how divided the sequel trilogy is all day long, but that doesn't help or doesn't hurt the fact that this movie is still the continuation post-Skywalker saga and what the galaxy looks like after everything. And that's what excites me. But tell me in the chat, are you excited for this movie? Tell me in the chat. And while you do that, let's see what Daisy Ridley had to say this time. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? So, I got like 4 articles about this whole same thing, and this one I want to start with first, okay? So, Star Wars New Jedi Order teaser is already getting fans worked up. Now, this is not a teaser trailer, this is just a teaser from Daisy Ridley herself. Daisy Ridley has spilled the beans on the next big Star Wars project. Not the next big, but one of the next big. And fans' reactions are completely unhinged, as per usual. Now, this is not something new. I mean, we've been with the Star Wars fandom for a long time now. We've been doing these live streams. We are not newbies when it comes to the reactions of the Star Wars fandom. Obviously, people feel very, very strongly about this thing that we call Star Wars. So they have very strong opinions when it comes to this thing that we call Star Wars. People who love the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy and don't love the sequel trilogy, they have very, very strong opinions. People who really, really love the sequel trilogy because it's what they grew up on or it's what they like, I don't know. They really have strong opinions. So when you have 2 people who have very strong opinions that are very different from each other, you're going to have a civil war in the fandom. And that's what tends to be happening online every single day for the last 30 years. However, this is a pretty interesting one because in a recent interview with Inverse, which we will get to, Daisy Ridley spoke up about the upcoming New Jedi Order trilogy that Disney has in the works. Again, this is not confirmed at all. I do think the Rey movie will be the beginning of a trilogy, but this is not confirmed in the slightest. Okay? Okay. Star Wars Santa, what's up? As she said this, I feel like Star Wars films are all political. Now, this is where things kind of went crazy online. People talking and referring to Star Wars in today's politics. Now, Obviously, Star Wars is political. You look at the prequel trilogy, even the original trilogy, but not as much. You look at the prequel trilogy, it's completely political. I mean, Padme Amidala, senator. Bail Organa, senator. Palpatine was a senator, becomes the Chancellor of the Republic. Like, it's all politics. The Separatists, the Republic, it's all about politics. Now, obviously, you still have the cool lightsaber duels. You still have the Jedi and the Force and all that cool, fun fantasy stuff. But it is relatable to the real world because of that, because of the politics. However, Star Wars politics, although they refer to, or I guess take examples from real world politics, we are not talking about the real world politics. Star Wars is an escape. It's an escape from the real world. And that's what it always has intended to be, an escape. Yes, it has lessons and mythology and politics that are like the real world, but they are lessons to teach you what's right and what's wrong, the light side and the dark, all that good stuff for the real world. But it's not the real world. It's an escape from that real world. That's, again, the reason that we do this, that I have this channel in the first place, to have an escape from everybody's crazy days, to have, maybe you're having a tough day at work, or you could, I don't even know. Maybe I don't know. Bad news happened today and you want to escape from it. That's what this is all about. That's what Star Wars is all about. Escape to a completely different galaxy at a completely different time where you can, yes, have things that you can relate to, but it's not the same. It's an escape. So when she says that Star Wars, they're all political, she's 100% right, but people just took it in the completely wrong way. Okay? Because she keeps going. As she says this, I feel like it's an individual versus a big corporation or a big group. Or I think they always have been. And she's absolutely not wrong. You look at A New Hope, it's a individual or a rebellion versus the big corporation, the Empire. The exact same thing happens with the Resistance in the First Order in the sequel trilogy. And the prequel trilogy is a little bit different, but even still, it's post-Order 66. It's versus the giant bad guys of the Empire. You even see in the Clone Wars and in the prequel trilogy, planets like Mandalore, who are the little guy, the individuals that don't want to be a part of this war from the big corporations, being the Separatists and the Republic. So that's what she said in her interview with Inverse, which we will get into in a second. Okay? Did she say this too? Okay, yeah, let's read this. And ultimately, I think that the films are emotional in that it's good and evil. Good versus bad. Which we can relate to, we all can relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. And yes, I do feel those conversations are woven within the story. And I'm very excited to see what George does. That is George Nolfi, not George Lucas. So she's talking about George Nolfi, who is now writing the script for the Rey movie. So what she's talking about here is, yes, all those things that we see in our day-to-day lives, all those good versus evil, all those bad things that we see, all those things in the real world that George Lucas, the creator of this whole damn thing, wove into the original Star Wars trilogy and the prequel trilogy to give you life lessons in an escaped reality in a different universe. Those are still woven into the stories today. And that's what George Nolfi now is doing with the Rey movie. But let's keep going. In Star Wars Holocron's Twitter post detailing the interview, most of the comments, as is in the case with Twitter, or X as it's called nowadays, are completely missing the point and rambling about the next Star Wars project being woke and Hollywood liberal nonsense or whatever. So this seems to be a common occurrence when it comes to any sort of news when it comes to Disney Star Wars. Pretty much all Disney Star Wars, but mostly sequel trilogy content. Now, the sequel trilogy has, like I mentioned multiple times already in this stream, is a very divided topic. Some fans really liking it, while some fans really not liking it. And that's what causes this uproar in the Star Wars fandom. But like I said, and like they say here, they are completely missing the point of what Daisey Ridley is trying to say. So this bad news, this over-exaggeration, let's say, from the Star Wars fandom is completely blown out of proportion. What she said is not anywhere close to what these people are talking about online. And for the last 2 days, people have been blowing this insanely out of proportion. But we're getting to the bottom of it. The thing is, if you are you're a genuine Star Wars fan, you know that Daisey Ridley's comments are actually spot on. All these things that she talks about here are the exact same things that George Lucas says over and over and over again. You watch any interview that he's talking about Star Wars, these are the exact same things that he says. The only difference is it's not George Lucas saying them, it's Daisey Ridley. And for some reason, some people online just can't handle that. I don't know what it is. For some reason, common sense went out the window back in 2012 when George Lucas sold the company to Disney. And I'm not saying that in the ways of Disney doesn't have common sense when they're making these Star Wars projects. I'm saying that in the words of the Star Wars fandom has seemingly lost the common sense. Now, I'm talking about it in obviously a very, very general terms here, because I know many of you Star Wars fans, a lot of you in the chat today, are very sensible people, very smart individuals. But the people online that you see, the so-called haters, they lost common sense a long time ago. They are trying to find any little detail that they can latch onto and say, this is bad. This is a reason for you not to like this. This is a reason that Disney is bad. Star Wars is bad. This is bad. That's what they're always looking for. The bad. And here's the deal. This is the exact same thing that Star Wars creators, George Lucas himself included, have been saying for decades. And the greatest example of this is last week. Literally last week. We were talking about George Nolfi and how he said that Star Wars is so political, just like how he's writing this script, because Star Wars has always been about politics, from the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy. And we were all like, yes, he gets it. He fully understands Star Wars. This is exactly what George Lucas was talking about. Woohoo, we got a good writer on this Rey movie. We did it. And now, 1 week later, 1 week, we are talking about the exact same story. The exact same thing. But the only difference is Daisey Ridley is the one who said it, not George Nolfi. And now it's completely changed. The reaction from the Star Wars fandom has completely flipped 180 on its head. She's an idiot. This is horrible. This movie is ruined. There's no chance that she doesn't understand Star Wars. This isn't. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't know when common sense left the building, but it did a long time ago. And the fact that it's almost comical at this point, because last week George Nolfi said the same thing about how Star Wars is political, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, this guy gets it. This guy's a good writer. He could make a good movie." And 1 week later, Daisey Ridley says the exact same thing. And all hell breaks loose. She doesn't get Star Wars. She doesn't understand it. It's woke. It's this, it's that. It's insane. I just don't get it. Do we really not like Daisey Ridley that much? Is the sequel trilogy really that important to these people who didn't like it? I'm lost. But let's see if I can get found. Let's keep reading. So, perfect. If you don't believe me, then take a look at this handy clip that somebody linked in the comment section, in which George Lucas, the guy who made Star Wars, implies that one of his key inspirations for the franchise was the Viet Cong. We've already seen this. I mean, if we want to watch it, we can, I guess.
Wars, if you think about it, the good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man kind of thing, nested deep inside of a fantasy.
Or a colonial, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
And we're just a bunch of hayseeds in coonskin hats that don't know nothing.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with the Vietnamese.
Yep.
The irony of that one is in both of those, the little guys won.
Right.
And the big, highly technical empire,
The English Empire. Right.
the English
British
Empire, the American Empire,
Yep.
lost.
Yeah.
So this is, if you don't know, George Lucas, and he's sitting across the table from James Cameron, who is the director of the Avatar movies and the Titanic and a lot of very big movies. But the conversation they're having is exactly the same thing that Daisey Ridley's talking about here. It's the individual or the little guy versus the big corporation, and that's what they're talking about right here. It's the colonial America versus the great empire of England. It's the individual rebellion of the Vietnamese versus the giant empire of the Americans trying to take them over. Like it's over and over and over again. History from the real world being put into Star Wars in a way that's still an escape from the real world, while also giving you the lessons of how not to repeat the history of good versus evil and rebellion versus big giant empire. So the fact is, people have taken what Daisey Ridley has said and for some reason blown it completely out of proportion. But when last week George Nolfi said it, or when George Lucas said it time and time again, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Actually, they did care. They just thought it was great. They thought it was perfect. They thought it was exactly what they wanted to hear. But when Daisey Ridley says it, it's not. I've said this plenty of times on live streams. I've actually remember saying it fairly recently, actually. And that is that Daisey Ridley is not only an incredible actress, but she seems to be, in recent times, one of the best actresses or actors even with the media. When she's in an interview, she's saying all the right things, especially when it comes to Star Wars. And that's very, very hard to do. Star Wars fans will take every word that you say and dissect it to the 10th degree. Like they really, really dive into everything that they say. The biggest thing, the biggest example of this was seen during The Acolyte. The Acolyte, everything that cast said was put under a magnifying glass because fans were looking for everything and anything to make fun of when it came to that show. So those interviews, although they said some crazy stuff, were blown completely out of proportion. And now we're seeing something very similar. But the contrary, I guess the contrast here is that Daisey Ridley is one of the best actresses when it comes to interviews. When you listen to her talk in an interview, especially about Star Wars, she is saying all the right things and really thinking about what she's saying because she knows that this is so important to so many people. And she knows whatever she says is going to be on the headlines of every news media article for the next couple days. So I don't understand, I really don't, why this was blown so completely out of proportion. It actually shocked me because we were just talking about George Nolfi saying the same things last week. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Have we lost our minds? Have we lost our goddamn minds? Okay, but let's go to the next article because this is pretty interesting. So this is the article that started this whole damn thing, and that is the Inverse interview with Daisey Ridley. So this is coming from Inverse, and it says, they're all political. Daisey Ridley on Star Wars and her new movie, Cleaner. So this is the reason we're getting all these Daisey Ridley interviews is because she's in this new movie called Cleaner. I don't know what it is, but she's in it. So, yeah. Okay. Daisey Ridley, best known for her role as Rey in Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. But in the years since The Force Awakens, she has been able to show her range, goes to the Outer Rim and back. She plays reimagined Shakespearean heroine, sure. Heroine? English chat. And a determined swimmer in The Young Woman in the Sea. And dystopian anomaly in Chaos Walking. Has any of you seen any of these movies? Has anybody in the chat seen any of these? I have not. I've not. So I have no idea what these movies look like, how they are, what they're like. I have no clue. I don't know. I haven't seen the reviews. I don't know if they're any good. I have no clue. I don't know what Daisy Ridley's acting career has looked like since Star Wars. I don't know. However, now she's trying her hand at action. So The Cleaners is an action movie, I guess. An action movie that asks the question, what if Die Hard and John McClane, is a badass female window cleaner? Okay. So she's a window cleaner, but she's going to be the action hero in the movie. Okay. Let's just skip to the Star Wars stuff. All right. But spreading her wings doesn't mean that Daisy Ridley is done with Star Wars altogether. She is now returning to Star Wars in a movie with a sequel, as a new sequel film directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. So there's a little bit of misconception going on here about the title of this movie. It is not New Jedi Order. This is sort of a working title, I guess, but it's the New Jedi Order is the time period that this movie is going to take place in. So when you look at the Star Wars timeline, you have certain eras, like the Age of Rebellion, the Age of the Empire, the Reign of the Empire, and the Rise of the First Order, the Reign of the First Order, or I guess the Fall of the First Order, the New Republic era, and now you got the Dawn of the Jedi, New Jedi Order era. You also have the Dawn of the Jedi era, Old Republic era, High Republic era. But now the New Jedi Order era is just a new spot on the Star Wars timeline. So it is not technically the name of the movie. That seems to be common misconception with this movie. But here's Daisy Ridley and Sharmeen when they announced it back 2 years ago, crazy, at Star Wars Celebration in 2023 in London. The movie has gone through some development issues, with 3 different writers leaving the project. However, the Bourne Ultimatum writer, George Nolfi, is the latest to take a crack at the script. And in a recent interview with Film Stories, he's proved he understands the legacy he is about to take on. If you think about George Lucas, the 6 movies that he did in the universe that he created, it's actually very steeped in broad notions of politics. So this is what we were talking about last week. What George Nolfi had to say about coming on to write the project for the Rey movie, and talking about George Lucas's first 6 movies and how they're very steeped, as he puts it, in broad notions of politics. And he goes on to say it's not talking about today per se, but there's the empire's Nazism / Roman Empire. So the big bad empire, like even George Lucas put in the other video we just watched about the Americas being the big empire, or England being the big empire in certain aspects of different wars. So that's what he's talking about here. And when he said this last week, people applauded that. People were like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And we even talked about it. As a writer, as a creative, as an actor, as a director, as anybody who's going to work on Star Wars, as soon as you mention George Lucas and talk about him in good light, Star Wars fans immediately go, okay, I like this guy, or I like this girl. Like it's so easy to please Star Wars fans as an actor or a director or a writer. Now, we'll talk about Rey in a second, or Daisy Ridley in a second, but when George Nolfi said this, we all were like nodding along going, yeah, he's right. Yeah, what he's saying is absolutely right. And we loved it because he mentions George Lucas. And when we hear George Lucas, we go, he's the GOAT. And then this guy also likes George Lucas. So we have that in common. So now we both like George Lucas. So we both like the same things. And it's honestly a very, very easy thing to do is please Star Wars fans when you're talking in interviews like this. But when we talk about Daisy Ridley, which people have been losing their minds about, she says almost the exact same things, which we'll get into in a second. And the reaction is different. Now, why? Well, she's already been in Star Wars. And the projects that she's been in, well, are very, very divisive. Okay? So let's keep reading. It's a concept Daisy Ridley agrees with wholeheartedly. So she, after pretty much following up this interview with George Nolfi, says almost the exact same thing. And she says this: I feel like the Star Wars films are all political. I feel like it's an individual versus the big corporation or a big group. And I think they always have been. She goes on to say, and ultimately, I think the films are emotional in that it's good versus evil, which we can all relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. But yes, I do feel those conversations are woven into the story, within the story, and I'm very excited to see what George does. So this is pretty much a follow-up to what George said last week. She was probably asked about it, and she was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. It is very political. It is a rebellion versus a big corporation, or an individual versus a big corporation. But the reaction to the two answers, which are the exact same, pretty much, Daisy really just doesn't mention George Lucas by name, are so vastly different, it's insane. And people don't even notice. People don't even realize that that's what's happening. It's crazy. But let's keep going. Oh, wait, she goes, they go on to talk about cleaners. So this is what cleaners is, I guess? I don't even know. Okay, never mind. That's it, I guess. So Daisy Ridley's response to what George Nolfi said was pretty much just regurgitating what he said in more words. And yet the reaction was so different, and I don't get it. So please tell me in the chat, what's going on here? Why are these two people, one the actress who's already been in Star Wars, and one the writer who's just hopped on the project to write the script, why do both of these two people say pretty much the exact same thing in different wording, and yet the reactions to each one are so different? What do we think's going on here? Why is this? Mr. Slash X, what's up? The Mind of Lucas says, I'm not excited about the Rey movie regardless of its title. I will watch it, but it doesn't excite me. Well, I think that's where a lot of fans are probably going to be at, Lucas. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of fans are going to be at with this Rey movie. When it even releases, a lot of fans are going to be in that same mindset. This doesn't excite me because of what the sequel trilogy was, but I might go check it out because I'm just a Star Wars fan. Now, the big task that George Nolfi has, that Sharmina Bed-Chinoy has, that Daisy Ridley has with this movie is to make it such an incredible movie that fans can't deny how good it is. So when you have a character like Finn or Poe or Rey who come back in this movie, you almost redeem those characters for the fans who didn't like the sequel trilogy. Now, that's a very tall task to accomplish, but it's not an impossible one. It really isn't. We've seen this happen before in Star Wars, actually, when you have, for example, the prequel trilogy starts with The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace was not well received by audiences and critics alike. However, even with a character like Anakin, I guess more so in Attack of the Clones because it's Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen in Attack of the Clones gets a lot of crap for his performance as Anakin. Now, when you look back at it, those movies, especially Revenge of the Sith, his performance is beloved. Like Hayden Christensen's the coolest guy in town. But that wasn't the case when it was first released. Now, a lot can happen since then. He's now been Vader in the Kenobi series. He was in Ahsoka and all that stuff, and fans just love the prequels now. But things can change when it comes to the sequel trilogy characters as well. If you write an incredible story featuring Finn, Poe, and Rey, There's no denying good storytelling. There's no denying it. So if it's a great story and those characters are in there and those characters get the, I guess, redemption arc for many Star Wars fans, then you're going to have a lot of people looking at those characters a little bit differently. But yeah, I completely agree with you. The excitement level for the Rey movie is going to be extremely low until it releases, because fans who aren't fans of the sequel trilogy are either not going to watch it or wait until other people say it's good or not. And if they say it's not, they're not going to watch it. But if they say, oh my God, this movie's so good, you have to watch it. You don't even know, like the sequel trilogy was this, but this is completely different, then they'll go watch it. So I think the Rey movie, unlike The Mandalorian and Grogu, unlike pretty much any other Star Wars movie on its way, is going to have to rely a lot on word of mouth and fan reaction. Because the first people who watch it have to go, holy shit, you have to see this movie. And if that's not the case, then it's going to hurt. Yeah. Indeed. I want Captain Phasma back. Well, that's, I guess, a story for another time. I'd rather see them reboot episode 7 through 9. Well, that will never happen. No. Never. First of all, I mean, they have made billions upon billions upon billions of dollars off those characters in movies. I mean, the movies themselves made over $4 billion, but the merchandising for those characters, the entire Galaxy's Edge on their Disney World parks are sequel trilogy related or themed. And they just keep making more money off of them. And now it's interwoven into the Mandoverse, interwoven into the Bad Batch, all these Project Necromancer references and Snoke clones and Palpatine stuff. Like, that's, no. We are far too deep into this to ever go back. Yeah. She was a great character, though. Well, that's the thing, too, Justin, is a lot of people really love these movies. The sequel trilogy, I feel most of the fandom thinks are just hated by all, but that's not the case. There's a lot of Star Wars fans out there that really like them. And I don't think that those fans are acknowledged as much as they should, because those people will go watch the Rey movie and are probably really excited for the Rey movie as well. And honestly, when you look at the poll in the chat right now, 63% of you are excited for the Rey movie. So it's not like something crazy is going on here. This movie is going to have some hype behind it. It's just, it's not going to be a $1 billion, $2 billion movie unless it's really, really good and people go, you have to see this movie after they've seen it. Yeah. Ron, what's up? Yeah. I'm certainly not going to judge the Rey movie until I've seen it. I look forward to it because it's Star Wars and I'm a Star Wars fan. Bring it on. That's a great way to look at it. I mean, it's Star Wars fan. I'm going to go check it out. That's the crazy part to me with a lot of Star Wars fans. And I'm using a very, very broad general term of a lot of Star Wars fans. Some, even still a general term, some Star Wars fans, they base their opinions on other people's opinions. So like they will either watch a show or not even watch it, and they will say, oh, I hate that show. And either they haven't seen it before or they allow somebody else's opinion to sway their own. And that's what's crazy to me. I've said this a million times, but I'll say it again. Whenever you come onto this live stream, whenever you come onto my channel ever, and you have your own opinion on something, I'm never, ever here to sway that opinion one way or the other. Never. That's not my job or my goal in any of this. I'm not here to convince you that The Revenge of the Sith is the greatest Star Wars movie of all time, because I think that it is. If you like any number of the Star Wars movies better than Revenge of the Sith, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you why Revenge of the Sith is better. I'm just going to go, great. Glad you like it. That's awesome. And tell me in the chat right now, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? Because it better be Revenge of the Sith or you're out of here. No, I'm kidding. But that's never the goal. And honestly, every single Star Wars fan should have their own personal opinion on every single Star Wars project, because it's how it hits you. Maybe you're having a bad day and you go watch The Mandalorian and you're like, oh, this sucks. And then you don't like The Mandalorian anymore. But then maybe a few years later, you go back and watch it and you're like, oh, I was just having a bad day that time. This stuff is awesome. Should be your own opinion. And you shouldn't be allowing somebody else to sway that opinion. Yeah. Empire Strikes Back is your favorite? Nice. Revenge of the Sith is your favorite? Nice. Nice. Empire? Nice. A New Hope, then Empire Strikes Back, then Revenge of the Sith, then Return of the Jedi? Okay. 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 These are all acceptable answers. The Force Awakens, nice. Force Awakens is underrated. A New Hope, nice. Nice. Okay, I do have a couple more articles to get to with this Rey movie stuff, and then I want to go to this. We haven't talked Star Wars animation in a long time, and the news we have today is pretty intriguing. As Star Wars Celebration comes up in April, and there will be announcements for the next animated Star Wars project. But let's talk about this. So Daisey Ridley talked about in an interview being open to joining the MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the DCU, the DC Extended Universe, EU, I guess. I don't even know what it's called anymore. But in that interview, she does still talk about Star Wars, and she talks about the script. Now, this is a different quote in a different interview, actually, so let's take a look at this. So Daisey Ridley had more to say. This one comes from a couple days ago here. So Daisey Ridley shares Star Wars script update and that she's open to joining the MCU. So Daisey Ridley is returning to Star Wars universe and reprising her role as Rey and is providing an update on the script for this sequel film. The Cleaners star said that in an interview she feels really good that writer George Nolfi is putting together a Star Wars sequel script for the film, and Charmino Bencino is set to direct it. As she said this, I have not yet read the latest script. Think about that for a second. She has not yet read the latest script. To me, this is implying that she has read a script before. Not the latest one, but she has read a script. Probably Stephen Knight's script, because Stephen Knight is now gone, but maybe even a George Nolfi script. I don't know. But she's read a script before. Now, I honestly think, we've talked about this before, but John Boyega and Oscar Isaac, those two are key in getting this movie off the ground, I think, because you're not going to have a Rey movie without Finn and Poe. At least you're not going to have a lot of fans happy about it if Finn especially is not involved. So I think the scripts that she has read and that others in the studio have read have definitely been sent to John Boyega as well. And he's not going to sign on until the script is good enough that he wants to sign on. But having said that, she says, I have not yet read the latest script. Keep that in mind. But I know what's happening, and I know the story. And I think what feels really good is that George is a phenomenal writer, she told comicbook.com. I think we are making sure that the story is that this story is the best way, this script is the best way to tell the story. So she's trying to really emphasize the fact that they are focusing on telling the best story in the best possible way. Now, this is a big deal because if the Rey movie is truly the beginning of a new trilogy, or even if it's not, let's just say it's not, even if it's a standalone film, they're really taking their time to make sure that this is good, that this is the right way to tell this story. Now, that's very important because with the sequel trilogy, so many fans thought they just rushed it. They didn't tell a cohesive story because the three movies were told by three different creators. And that's true. I guess the beginning and the end were told by the same creator, but there was a middle piece that was completely different than the other two because it was a completely different creator in J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. So the lack of cohesiveness throughout the trilogy is what really hurts it for me specifically, but for a lot of fans as well. And what this is telling us, what Daisey really is saying here, is that they know that. They've made that mistake before, and they're not going to make it again. They are really, really taking their time to make the best possible script in the best possible way to tell this story so that they don't mess up the first time. And that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to hear. I don't care if this Rey movie doesn't come out for another 4-5 years. it would stink. I want it as soon as possible, but I wouldn't care because I know that they're taking the right amount of time and the right amount of care to make it as good as possible. And that's the goal. Because when Disney acquired Star Wars and started making the movies, all those movies were sort of pieced together last minute. Now that can be done, and it has been proven that it can be done via Rogue One. And I guess you could look at the MCU, for example. The MCU's first probably 10, 20 projects were all pieced together very last minute up until its release. But having said that, Rogue One had a lot of behind the scenes issues, and it still turned out to be one of the best movies of all time. Now, Solo is sort of an example. I like Solo, but Solo is sort of an example of sort of behind the scenes issues that turn out to be a box office bomb because that movie lost money. So they don't want that to happen again. They don't want this to happen with the Rey movie. So they're taking their time, making sure that it's done and done correctly so that it doesn't solo. Yeah, I'm using solo as a verb, I guess. Adverb, whatever. Teased us with Maul at the end for Solo. Solo is underrated. It absolutely is underrated. But I think what hurt Solo is a lot of different things. It's the first movie after The Last Jedi. It's in the same couple weeks as Avengers Infinity War. There's a lot of things that went into Solo not being a big success. It's obviously about Han Solo, Harrison Ford's iconic character, and Harrison Ford is not playing that iconic character. So there's a lot of things. But yeah, I agree with you. Solo is completely underrated. Yeah. Indeed. Okay. But she goes on as she continues and says, I think it will be worthwhile for everybody watching it, and I'm very excited. So this is obviously the goal. Is it worthwhile? Because you got a lot of time from now until the Rey movie releases, probably years at this point. And is the story going to be worth the wait? That's the big, big question. Oh, we got a super chat. Hang on. We got a super chat. Oh, Mind of Lucas with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate that quite a bit. Says, considering the backlash the Acolyte got for having an activist showrunner, do you think we will see a director change since she is also an activist? No, I actually don't think Sharmina Bencino is going anywhere. And I don't think that's the issue. And I really don't think that was the issue with the Acolyte either. But having said that, I think my issue personally with Sharmina Bencino is her lack of experience with Star Wars specifically, but also with directing in general. Like, yes, she's done episodes of Miss Marvel, which is good. It's a good start. But she hasn't done like a movie before. She's done short films, but that's not a full-on feature film. And she has zero experience with Star Wars. So I've said this a million, billion, trillion times, but I feel like every director who should work on a Star Wars movie should have to do at least one episode of a Disney Plus show first. And now that you have the ability to do that, it should be a requirement. Because we have great directors that have done multiple episodes of Disney Plus shows that we'd love to see do a movie, like a Bryce Dallas Howard who gets brought up all the time. She would be fantastic for a Star Wars movie. And if you had Charmine do a Andor episode for season 2 or a Ahsoka episode for season 2, then fans would really love that. They would go, okay, she did this episode of Ahsoka, she did this episode of Andor season 2, and I love that episode, so I should love what she's going to do with the Rey movie. So do I think they need a director change? No. I think Charmine can do a good job, but it is very risky to have a director with that little experience in Star Wars and in directing direct the Rey movie. So the fact that they have a good writer behind her is very important. Obviously, hopefully, producers like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni will be on the movie. That would be fantastic to see. But it concerns me a little bit. But I don't think a director change is necessary. But I appreciate the $5 holla. I really, really do. Super chats, memberships keep the lights on over here. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, let's get back to this article, shall we? So she's talking about it being worthwhile, which is of course very, very important. Daisy Ridley first played the role in 2015's The Force Awakens, and then of course in The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Well, the Star Wars film became a reality. Daisy Ridley says she's not opposed to becoming an Avenger or joining the Marvel's MCU in the future. So she's asked about it, and she says, of course, I'm open to a lot of stuff. She loved the Penguin and the Batman, specifically from DC, if she's going to go join the DC universe as well. Honestly, who else didn't? Oh, we got another super chat. Okay, hang on. Got so rudely interrupted. Darth Plagueis lives with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate that quite a bit. I really, really do. Says, I feel like everything that comes out about the Rey movie is great news. Also hoping for a Clone Rebellion show. Well, we'll talk about the next animated show in a little bit here, but I agree with you to an extent. I mean, not great news, but usually, I mean, like when it's losing writers, it's not great news. But for the most part, whenever Daisy Ridley comes out and says something about this movie, or whenever like we get a new writer who's talking about it, especially what George Nolfi has been saying over the last couple of weeks, it's great news. And the fact that they're taking their time with this movie to get it right is great news. So I agree with you and I disagree with you a little bit, but I appreciate the $5 holla. I really, really do. And when we get to the Star Wars Clone Rebellion show, well, I'll remember that, okay? And we'll talk about it. Indeed we will. But now that I've been so rudely interrupted, can I get back to my article now? God! But I appreciate the super chats. I really, really do. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, she was talking about joining the MCU and stuff like that. So we'll just leave it at that. She does go on, actually, yeah, let's keep reading this. So she does go back on, this does go back on to talk about her in Star Wars, as last year, when she was on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, she reflected on the backlash of the sequel trilogy. Now, this has been a big topic of discussion throughout the Star Wars fandom for the last 6 years now, coming up on 6 years, since the sequel trilogy ended. And that is, of course, the divide in the Star Wars fandom because of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and I guess The Force Awakens, but not so much, mostly the last two movies. And she said this, it's still upsetting. You don't want people to feel like you've not served the thing that they're a fan of. But The Last Jedi was so divisive, or divisive, as some people say it. It felt like the first one, everyone was responsive in the same way. And that's pretty much true. I feel like The Force Awakens is the most loved of the three. I like The Force Awakens quite a bit, actually. But the second one, super divisive, and the last one, super divisive. It didn't change how I felt about them, though. She doesn't really say there, but she, of course, loved making them, and all. She's talked a lot about that. But having said that, she is sort of still upset about how the reaction of the Star Wars fandom was to those movies. And of course, why wouldn't you? You've put so much effort and hard work into those movies. Now, talking about the Rey movie and talking about what Daisy Ridley said is one thing. But what this Rey movie actually is for the future of Star Wars content is far more important than people really understand. And this article I found about the Rey movie, and this will cap off our sort of Rey movie topic today, is pretty interesting. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look. Rey's new Jedi Order movie, will have to do what the franchise has been avoiding for the last 10 years. Let's take a look at this. The Rey-centric and tentatively titled, again, it's not titled this, but yeah, the new Jedi Order movie will have to push Star Wars outside its comfort zone, something that the franchise has actively been avoiding for the past 10 years. New Jedi Order was announced at Star Wars Celebration in 2023, marking the official return of Daisy Ridley's Jedi Rey. Sharmina Bed-Chinoy has been tapped to direct the feature film, which will see Rey Skywalker lead the new Jedi Order 15 years after the events of the undeniably divisive Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars' new Jedi Order movie has not officially been dubbed Episode 10 yet. It could be, it could not be. I don't know. Tell me in the chat. And with good reason. As far as we know, it's not the start of a new Star Wars trilogy. I think it could be, but yes, as far as we're aware, there's been no indication that this is the start of a new trilogy. Though, there are rumors that Ridley will make more than one appearance coming up in the future of Star Wars. So, it has the opportunity to do something new. If the new Jedi Order is indeed meant to be a standalone story, a launch point for an unexplored era in the Star Wars timeline, Lucasfilm will have to do something it arguably hasn't done since George Lucas first created Star Wars back in 1977. So let's take a gander at this, shall we? Star Wars has been dining out on nostalgia for 10 years. Let's talk about this, because this is actually a very good conversation to have. Let's talk about it. After episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, there was a lull in Star Wars activity. Sure, the franchise eventually thrived on the animation side of things with the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. But relatively speaking, the animated shows are watched by a small sample of the total Star Wars audience. Given the criticism endured by the prequel trilogy, Star Wars' return to the big screen had to not only launch a new era, but also give general audiences a reason to invest in the franchise again. That's a very, very tall task to accomplish back in 2015 for the movie The Force Awakens. This film was essentially fractions as a retelling of the first Star Wars movie, later retitled A New Hope. So a lot of people compare these two movies. It's very, very similar in storytelling wise. You got the big Death Star versus Star Killer base. You got Rey, who's from a desert. You got Luke, who's from a desert, who doesn't have parents. There's a lot of similarities there. Obviously, a lot of differences as well. You got a droid in R2-D2, a droid in BB-8 that has very important information. Both of them have very important information. So it's very similar, obviously, in a lot of different ways, but different in some as well. Where was I? Oh, but it introduced viewers to a new cast of characters, each with their own seemingly limitless storytelling potential. Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren. We are meant to become beacons of change despite sharing the screen with Star Wars legends of old, Luke, Leia, Han, etc. Unfortunately, though, the franchise couldn't fully let go of the Skywalkers and their legacy. Oh, well, they tried. They tried indeed very, very hard to do so. But fans were not going to let that happen. There's no way to kill off Luke, Leia, or Han the right way. Now, maybe there is. Maybe there is. And I don't think that The Last Jedi was definitely the way to kill off Luke Skywalker. But even Han Solo's death was very, very divided amongst the Star Wars fandom when it happened in The Force Awakens. And honestly, I liked Han Solo's death. It felt meaningful. It felt impactful towards Kylo Ren's fall and his story and sort of his redemption arc, I guess, towards the end. But it did feel meaningful in a way. Now, Leia's death is a little bit different because Carrie had already passed. So it's hard to have her having meaningful death when she's not actually there. So that's a big issue there too. But having said that, I think The Force Awakens sets up these four characters in particular in a very, very great way. It sets up them. It sets up, of course, Luke on Arc 2. It sets up Snoke. It sets up all that. It's the execution of the next two movies that are my issue with the sequel trilogy. That's why I like The Force Awakens so much. It sets up this trilogy so perfectly. And the similarities to A New Hope aren't a bad thing. You know? They're just not. There's something that's almost remind Star Wars fans what's going on here. It's similarities in how history repeats itself, but it's not the exact same story. I'm losing my voice right now, so can I get some good cuts full orders to the chat, please? Ba-ba. Okay. Okay. Where was I? Part of the reason the Star Wars sequel trilogy was and has remained divisive is because of how Star Wars let the old influence the new. Star Wars has made several attempts to do something unexpected. Han Solo's death, Luke Skywalker's adverse reaction to Rey's appearance, then sudden murder of Supreme Leader Snoke, but the franchise nevertheless fell back on the familiar time and time again, like Yoda's Force Ghost, Emperor Palpatine's resurrection, and Lando's brief appearance in Rise of Skywalker. On the whole, the sequel trilogy's story was held back by one incredibly powerful force: nostalgia. Now let's talk about this for a second. Is this an issue with Star Wars or not? Is having nostalgia in pretty much every single Star Wars project for the last decade a problem within Star Wars? I would say relying on nostalgia is a very big issue, but there is no way to create a Star Wars project in any book, any comic, any show, animated live action, any movie, anything, without that nostalgia feel. It's the same thing with the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy is still relying on the nostalgia of the original trilogy. It's never not been there. Because once you create this universe, once you create the rules of the universe, the Force, the lightsabers, the how everything looks, the old technology, the old how ships look, how ships fly, how all that stuff works, the rules of Star Wars, as Jude Law talked about with the Skeleton Crew, how they had to abide by the rules of Star Wars. Those rules are to establish the nostalgia, to tell you that we are in the same universe as the projects that came before it. Because if those rules changed, then it wouldn't feel like Star Wars. Because every project that's ever going to be released in the Star Wars universe is going to be titled Star Wars. It could be Star Wars Rebels. It could be Star Wars Resistance. It could be Star Wars The Clone Wars. It could be Star Wars The Force Awakens. It could be Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It could be the new Jedi Order movie, Star Wars, the new Jedi Order movie, Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It's always going to be Star Wars in that universe. So it has to feel like Star Wars. And that feeling is almost described as nostalgia. Star Wars Your Mom, good one. That's a good one.
Incorrect.
But having said that, is nostalgia a bad thing? That's what they seem to be putting out in this. But let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. Shall we? Okay. Even the excellent and generally well-received Rogue One, a Star Wars story, relied heavily on the stories that came before. Duh. Obviously, it's literally a story about the opening crawl, or explaining the opening crawl of A New Hope. How is it not going to have references and connections to the original trilogy? Okay. Including cameos of the beloved characters of Princess Leia and Darth Vader. Of course, this comes down to Rogue One's story, though one could argue that it was a story that didn't necessarily need to be told. That's true. I mean, I guess none of these stories need to be told. None of these stories need to be told. The Mandalorian, we didn't need that. Andor, didn't need that. The Clone Wars, we didn't need that. We didn't need Empire Strikes Back either. Could have been done after A New Hope. Didn't need to be. However, Solo, a Star Wars story, meanwhile, failed despite Han Solo's long-lasting legacy. Star Wars seemingly never took the lesson to heart. I don't know about that one. Interestingly, though, when Star Wars released The Mandalorian Season 1 on Disney Plus in 2019, the same year of Rise of Skywalker, it felt like the franchise had finally learned from the past. Here was a show that used established Star Wars lore, the lore of Mandalorians, but gave the audience an entirely new perspective on it. It felt like a breath of fresh air. So this article is contradicting itself within the same article. Talking about relying on nostalgia, the only reason... Now, okay, I'll take a step back for it. Take a step back. Hang on, sorry, I gotta take this text. Sorry, I had to answer that. The only reason, or a big reason, that The Mandalorian worked, the reason that we have 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and we're getting a Mandalorian movie, is because of Grogu. Grogu is everywhere. He is Star Wars at this point. They've made billions upon billions of dollars off of merchandising and streaming numbers and all that stuff from this one character. If Grogu is not in The Mandalorian, it's just a spin-off of a character that looks like Boba Fett, that's a bounty hunter, and there's no real plot to the show because the whole arc is him becoming a father and becoming, I guess, soft because of this kid that he finds, the bounty that he finds, and he chooses to protect it. So obviously there's no plot to the show, but having said that, Grogu is completely relying on nostalgia because of Yoda. The exact same thing they talked about, the reason that The Last Jedi relied on nostalgia using a Force ghost of Yoda. The Mandalorian uses a baby version of Yoda's species that was literally called Baby Yoda for an entire year. These are the conversations I love to have because all the time these things are brought up. Nostalgia, relying on nostalgia, or even better, fan service, relying on fan service to make a Star Wars project. Don't you want to service your fans? Is that not the goal? Yes, fan service can be done incorrectly, but I have never seen that happen in Star Wars. Yes, nostalgia can be, I guess, the only reason you make a project, but that's never been done before with Star Wars. But the one example they bring up of a breath of fresh air, the one that doesn't rely on nostalgia, is The Mandalorian Season 1, which is so reliant on nostalgia. The 2 main characters. One is supposed to remind you of Boba Fett, who's a beloved Star Wars character from the original trilogy, and the other one's supposed to remind you of Yoda, who's a beloved character from the original trilogy. And guess what? They're both probably on your shirt right now. Yeah, that's right. Right there. So let's keep reading. And yet, even The Mandalorian was soon okay. They talk about season 2, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, all this stuff. Season 1 is the exact same thing. You're still wearing your work shirt? Your work shirt doesn't have Grogu and Din Djarin on it? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. Okay. Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker, obviously all these characters are in The Mandalorian Season 2, but that is not the point of The Mandalorian Season 2, not just to have a cameo fest of all these different characters. There's a reason that it's the best, one of the best seasons that we've ever seen. However, will Star Wars ever let itself truly be innovative? History says no, but I'm hoping that the new Jedi Order will be the start of something bold. This is an idiotic article. Might be the most idiotic article I've ever read in my life. The fact that they're saying that Star Wars has never been innovative. I guess sense A New Hope. They don't even say that. The fact that the most innovative franchise of all time has never been innovative is insanity. Like, actually insanity. Literally, Star Wars is probably agreed upon by 99% of the entire Earth's population as the most innovative franchise of all time. Not only what they've been doing behind the scenes, but on the screen as well. George Lucas changed the entire movie-making industry pretty much by himself. Obviously, a team of people, the team that he created, but by himself. That's insane. But let's keep reading. Why not? Rey's new Jedi Order movie has to do something fresh and new. Let's take a look at this. The new Jedi Order movie cannot afford to be careful. They can't rely on nostalgia any longer. However you may feel about it, Rey is a divisive character. That is true. That's the only true statement that they've probably said in this entire article. If Star Wars wants a fantastic audience, fanatic audience and casual audiences to embrace her as a character once more, they need to give them a reason to. Rey's new Jedi Order essentially needs to reinvent Star Wars. Star Wars has to acknowledge the fact that the Skywalker bloodline is officially gone and face its future head on. Yeah, I pretty much could not disagree with this article anymore. I agree that the fact is you have to move past the Skywalkers in this Rey movie. That is true for the most part. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're not reinventing the wheel, actually. Please do not reinvent the wheel with this Rey movie. Don't do that. It needs to feel like Star Wars. It needs to be like Star Wars. We talked about a villain for the Rey movie, and it's very hard to even come up with. I mean, you can't really go back to the Sith because Palpatine was just all the Sith and now he's gone. You could go with the Vong. You could go with the Grisk. You could go with Abeloth. You could go a bunch of different directions. Even if you wanted to go with the Sith Lord, you could go Darth Krayt. It doesn't matter. Setting up who the next villain's going to be, setting up what the galaxy is going to look like after the First Order has fallen, after the Sith have gone, after Palpatine has been vanquished for good, hopefully, this time. That's going to be extremely hard to do. But you have to rely on those things that make it Star Wars. You have to rely on the Force. You have to rely on the Jedi. You have to rely on, hopefully, a new Republic. And hopefully Coruscant. Like, if Coruscant is in the Rey movie, is that relying on nostalgia? Because Coruscant's in the prequel trilogy? Shouldn't it be the capital of the Republic yet again? The big question to me, and obviously it's sort of an answered question, is why was Coruscant not destroyed by the Starkiller base? Now, there's two answers to it. One, a behind-the-scenes answer, and one, an in-world answer. The behind-the-scenes answer is that J.J. Abrams wanted to kill Coruscant, and they didn't let him. The in-world answer is that the capital of the New Republic changed. It changed from Coruscant to Hosnian Prime in the time period between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. So that's explained. But Coruscant still exists. So is that going to become the new Republic's headquarters? Possibly. But is that relying on nostalgia? Probably. You're going to tell me, too, that Rey's going to create her own Jedi Order and not have Luke's Force Ghost and Leia's Force Ghost or anybody's Force Ghost help her out? She needs help. I think this sort of hatred or looking at fan service and nostalgia as a bad thing is the only thing that can hurt this Rey movie and hurt any project coming up, really. Because it's not. It clearly isn't. When you look at the success of The Mandalorian, of Ahsoka, of Rogue One, of the successful projects that they've had, it completely relies on nostalgia. All of it. So, yeah. I really don't know. Yeah. Destroying Coruscant actually makes more sense I don't know why people got mad about it, especially since it didn't actually happen in the movie. Well, I actually think if you're blowing up Coruscant, that's a big deal, because that means Coruscant can never be used again. And Coruscant's such a obviously important piece of Star Wars. It's the capital. It was the capital for the Republic. It's the capital since the Old Republic. It's the capital all the way up until the New Republic. So destroying that would be a big deal. Okay, let me talk about something as we are going to switch gears, and this is almost a perfect segue into the animated world of Star Wars. I just finished Star Wars Resistance. I know. We've made so many tier lists on this channel. Every single time a new Star Wars show comes out, we make a new tier list for all the Star Wars shows. And wait, what? Oh. And I always tend to put Resistance. Where is it? I always tend to put Resistance in the D tier. Now, the only reason I do that is because I've never watched it. Now, this is all going to come together. Don't you worry. We're talking about destroying the Hosnian Prime system. In this show, it focuses on the Resistance, focuses on a character named Kazuda Xiono. And Kaz, short for Kazuda. Kaz is a member of the Resistance, but he's sort of just by himself the entire 2 seasons, working for the Resistance, but not really working with our characters like Leia and Poe. He works with Poe every once in a while, but not really. The events of the movies of the sequel trilogy are taking place during the events of this show. And when they blow up the Hosnian Prime system, that's a very important piece of Kaz's story, because his dad and his parents were supposedly there. They didn't die, but they were there. He thought they were there. If that happened to Coruscant, that means all that ever happened on Coruscant from the Old Republic moving forward is gone. It's pretty much the same as destroying the Darksaber, and why so many people were upset about that. Because with the Darksaber being destroyed, it means it's never going to be seen again. Now, could another Darksaber be made? Maybe. With the same Kyber crystal? Possibly. Will Grogu get a Darksaber in the future? Maybe. But Coruscant can't be pieced back together. So once you destroy a planet like that, it's gone forever. So the fact is, they set up a new capital for the New Republic, which was smart, and destroyed it. So you felt the same way. The entire Republic is gone. All those billions upon billions of people are dead. The New Republic is gone. The First Order has taken control. But you didn't destroy Coruscant, which is great. Now, going to Resistance. It does not deserve this D tier. I watched it through the first 2 seasons. Is it more geared towards younger kids? Yeah. I mean, it's a TV like 7 rating, so it's for 7-year-olds. And that's probably where it's supposed to be at that age group. It's not nearly as good as like the Clone Wars we've talked about. Clone Wars is S tier. We've talked about Rebels is S tier. That's season 1, but you know what I mean. The Rebels is S tier. It's nowhere close to that. However, it is not D tier. If you want to sort of just have a goofy little fun time with Star Wars in a time period that's not really explored much, Rebels is fun. Honestly, I'd put it in a B tier. I wouldn't put it in this anywhere close to S. Probably wouldn't even put it in A. It's low B, but it's definitely not a C or even a D. It's probably low B over here. But I just had to clear that up. Next time we do a tier list, Resistance will not be a D. The only reason I ever put it there is because of not watching it. Yeah, we're not doing a full tier list right now. I was just sort of bringing this up to visually show you what I mean. It deserves to be over here. It's not down here. So if you've never watched Resistance, like I haven't ever, once you get past sort of the first 3 or 4 episodes and realize what this is, it gets good. I mean, one of the characters goes into the First Order. You get the perspective of the First Order and the Resistance, what's happening there, how the New Republic falls. You get a good look at that. And you get the perspective of the Resistance fighters and the New Republic, and the First Order fighters in both sort of ways. You get Kylo Ren. You get a deeper look at Phasma and I guess the First Order in general. So that's pretty cool. It's not the best of the best. It's low B. I'd put it. It's still one of the worst projects on here, but that doesn't mean it's bad. So if you want just a fun little goofy throw it on in the background type thing, it's the animation style is weird. Much like Rebels, the animation style is weird. It's even weirder than Rebels. And it's, of course, geared towards way younger kids than the other animated shows are, but it's not deserving of a D tier. So there you go. Just had to throw that out there. Having just finished it last night, it's pretty dang cool. It's a great ending. 2 seasons, that's it. And it's just a little... It's not meaningful towards any other greater story, but it gives you an insight into the Resistance and into the First Order, a time period that's not explored nearly enough. Like I've mentioned before, we need a Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple show to explore that sort of area leading up to the First Order, with the Resistance and Leia creating the Resistance and Kylo Ren's fall to the dark side and Snoke's rise to power, all that stuff. We need that in a sort of the next animated series. And that brings us to the news of today. And that is that a new Star Wars comic about the Bad Batch may have just set up a new Clone Wars spin-off series. So I actually want to put up a poll in the chat. Oops. Whoa. Wrong button. Before we get to any of this, I want to put up a poll in the chat. Let's do this. Resistance is a good show. It's great for when you need a quick Star Wars fix to get through the day. True. Robert says, the First Order never seized control of the galaxy after blowing up the Hazium Prime. They were on Starkiller Base, then roaming around on their Star Destroyers. They never formed a government or anything like that. That's true, but they were the biggest powerhouse in the galaxy at the time. So after they destroyed the New Republic in The Force Awakens, they became the biggest powerhouse in the galaxy. So they had bases all across the galaxy. They might not have had one capital, but they had bases all across the galaxy and Star Destroyers, of course, and the biggest army in the galaxy. And that's what made them the controllers of the galaxy. They didn't have a specific like Senate buildup or anything like that. They were just an empire, pretty much. But yeah, true. True. For a show called Star Wars Resistance, it's an incredible disappointment for the direction that it took. That I will give you. Yeah, I wish it was more focused on the story that the movies tell, and I guess more of just Resistance. It's a lot of filler episodes. I mean, it's almost entirely filler episodes for the most part. It's very much like a season 1 of Rebels or filler episodes, filler arcs of the Clone Wars all pieced together with very little pieces of very important storytelling, because there are very important stuff going on in there. It's just very far and few between. Yeah. Luke's Jedi Academy show? I hope so. But I want to put up a poll in the chat. By the way, still, with how many votes? Almost 100 votes. We have 63% of you are still excited for the Rey movie. That's pretty good. That's pretty dang good. Yeah. Unpopular opinion. I wish that Star Wars Resistance had the animation style of Avatar or Legend of Korra. I do like those animation styles. I do. Avatar: The Last Airbender is incredible. Even Legend of Korra is good too. But if you're going to do any Star Wars animation from here on out, I think it should be the animation style of what The Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi has been. They've really perfected that style of the Clone Wars, but when you look at the Clone Wars Season 1 versus Season 7, it's like night and day. And I think where we've settled on with this sort of Bad Batch Clone Wars Season 7 area is the best. I think it should stay at that level. Yeah. Need a new Avatar ASAP? Well, I don't know if you're talking about the Avatar Blue people from James Cameron, because that 3rd movie comes out at the end of this year. Or if you're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, which also is getting a new series. Or maybe it's movies. I don't recall which it is, but we're either getting movies or a series about Aang after the events of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's going to be an older Aang post Last Airbender. Yeah. Tales of the Empire has amazing animation. That's true too. But that's the same animation I'm talking about. That style needs to continue. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this. What could be this next animated show? Oh, I wanted to put up the poll first. What do you want the next Star Wars animated show to be? Okay. You only get 4 options because I can only put 4 options in this poll. So our 4 options are going to be Luke Jedi Temple Show, Luke's Jedi Temple. We'll go Clone Rebellion for Darth Plagueis. Clone Rebellion. Your third option is going to be a Hidden Path show, which would be like Asajj Ventress, Quinlan Voss, and that whole thing. And then your fourth option is going to be Other. Now, we're talking full-on multi-season shows. I'm not talking Tales of the Blank. I'm not talking anything like that, Star Wars Visions or anything like that. I'm talking just full-on multi-season animated shows. Because likely, from what we hear, there are 2 animated series that are going to be announced at Star Wars Celebration this year. One is likely to be a Tales of the Blank, but the other one's probably going to be a multi-season show. Oh my God, Jordan Rennie shows up to the party and immediately drops a $50 holla. What the hell, Jordan? I appreciate you quite a bit, Jordan. I really, really do. I was telling Samantha actually about your $150 super chat, and she was shocked. So I think you're her new favorite, Jordan. I think so. But I appreciate that. I really, really do, Jordan. You are the GOAT, okay? You're the GOAT. We all know this. Praise Jordan. Okay, but Jordan, I appreciate that. I really, really do. $50 is insanely generous. And he says, a Luke Skywalker Jedi Academy, please, Lucasfilm. And I agree with him. I think of this list, that is the best option. But the news we're talking about today is not a Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple show. No, it is another spin-off of the Clone Wars. So let's take a look at this. Star Wars just set up a new Clone Wars spin-off that I'm desperate to see. There we go. Okay. 5 years after Star Wars officially brought Star Wars The Clone Wars to an end with Season 7, and 1 year after the conclusion of its spiritual sequel series, The Bad Batch, the franchise has just introduced a perfect Clone Wars era spin-off story that I'm desperate to see. Because the Clone Wars series was always focused primarily on its main characters, namely Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, and Captain Rex. We didn't get to see a lot of them, a lot of other inner workings in the Grand Army of the Republic. There's much more left to explore. So this is where the big question becomes. Do you make a Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple show because it's about the main characters of Star Wars, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, R2, C-3PO, etc., Ben Solo, etc., or do you keep spinning off? The Bad Batch is a spin-off of the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is a spin-off of the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy is technically a spin-off of the original trilogy. But you could go on for days and days. But the Bad Batch is really a spin-off of the Clone Wars. And the characters of of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are main characters through 7 seasons of that Clone Wars show. The Bad Batch are not main characters in the Star Wars timeline. They're just not. But that story is incredible. So do we dive deeper into clones in general? Do we get a Clone Rebellion show with Captain Rex, Commander Cody, and all those people? Or do we just keep going with important characters in what deems an important character? These are all questions that are very important. And I'm very, very intrigued to see what you guys think. What would we rather? More clones or more main story? Tell me in the chat. And while you do, let's keep reading. Now, this is the perfect time to do so, as the Clone Wars time period is more beloved now than ever before. The live-action Clone Wars sequence in Ahsoka Episode 5 has seemingly... I disagree with. Revitalized Star Wars fans' adoration of that era. Ahsoka Episode 5 was great, don't get me wrong, and obviously a lot of people love the Clone Wars, but The Bad Batch had been coming out for the last 3 years before that. And before that, even, Clone Wars Season 7 was released. So the Clone Wars era was already beloved by fans. It didn't take Ahsoka Episode 5 to do so. But, yes, it did help. And it has left the fandom as a whole pleading for more of that from Star Wars. If the franchise wants to explore a refreshing new story set in that era, then I know the perfect way to do so. And they just opened up the perfect avenue for them to explore it further. So what the hell are we talking about here? Well, let's read on. Star Wars just confirmed the Republic's secret Black Ops division. In the secret Black Ops operations is known as Ghost Agents. Let's read this. Let's read. Oh my God, Jordan, are you serious? What the hell? Jordan. You're crazy. Jordan with another $50 holiday. So, holy crap, Jordan. I appreciate that quite a bit. Holy shit. Says, no, you, the people who love Star Wars, are the goats. Well, thank you, Jordan. Yes, everybody here is the goat, but Jordan is just the goat of all goats. He's the goat with the high ground. You know?
Hello there.
But he says, happy Valentine's Eve to Star Wars. That's true. It is Valentine's tomorrow. So if you forgot about that, you might want to remember. Valentine's is tomorrow. We could talk about best Star Wars relationships and stuff like that. But I appreciate it, Jordan. I really, really do. That's insanely generous. And it really, really just makes my day. But let's talk about this since I was so rudely interrupted. God, Jordan in his super chats. Okay, where was I? The existence of the Galactic Republic's secret Black Ops division has just been confirmed in a brand new comic miniseries, Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, about the Bad Batch, Ghost Agents, written by Michael Morrissey, and penciled by Reese. In the first issue, Clone Force 99 is summoned to Coruscant by Mace Windu himself for a mission involving the Republic's ghost agents. Windu explains the role for these operatives to the Bad Batch, essentially confirming that these ghost agents are a part of a secret Black Ops division. Okay?
Brian T.
Sorry. Hang on, Chet. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Read this comic for me. I gotta take this. Sorry. Okay. Where was I? So, in this comic, let's take a closer look at this. Can I zoom in on this? What the heck? Here we go. So, this is the latest comic from the Bad Batch, okay? So let's take a look at this. So, Coruscant. We are here. Wait, what does that say? We are at war, sorry. In war, people serve in different roles. Some of these roles go unnoticed. Some you can say, and some, obviously, you cannot. You mean spies. I mean ghost agents. So we're being introduced to something new in this ghost agency. Okay? Are you kidding me, Jordan? Are you kidding me? You're absolutely insane. Jordan with another $50 holler just to say, P.S., sorry for the interruption. You are absolutely insane. You are crazy. Jordan, do you know that? You're crazy. Continuing. So Mace goes on to say, they feed us invaluable information about the separatists and risk their own lives to do so. We've been able to protect them, what they do, and who they are until now. In the interest of time, I'll get to the point. Their identities of our agents have been stolen. We know now, we don't know how, and we don't know by who, but we need this list back before it falls into the wrong hands. Sounds like it already has, before it falls into worse hands, so he says. These agents are the backbone of the Republic's intelligence community. Without them, our efforts would be in jeopardy. So this is pretty important to these people. So this being introduced in the latest comic brings up the possibility of what could be next. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So, initially, after hearing about this so-called, I think it's clandestine. Is clandestine? I believe is the correct pronunciation. You know how good I am at pronouncing things. Role for the Clone Wars. Hunter suggests that they're spies, to which Windu responds with no ghost agents. Windu then elaborates on this by saying that those operatives risk their lives to feed the Republic valuable information about the Separatists, and that their identities being compromised would put their lives in utter jeopardy, as they are the backbone of the Republic's intelligence community. So, perhaps this is surprising, but let's talk about it. Already, there's evidence that some Jedi served as ghost agents too. This brings us to our good boy here, Bode, from Jedi Survivor. Windu's concern about the identities of these ghost agents likely results for many, if not all, of them being Jedi Knights that are undercover. This concept has been explored in Jedi Survivor with Bode, a former Jedi Knight who served at the Republic intelligence during the Clone Wars by taking on various undercover missions under the command of Lank Denvik. Sure. It's not impossible to imagine that Bode's role as a member of the Republic intelligence was one of the ghost agents, particularly if he was intended mainly going undercover as a gathering intelligence about the Separatists. So, it's even possible that Jedi like Quinlan Vos served as ghost agents too, and this would explain his appearance in The Phantom Menace, especially given how many underworld missions the Kifar Jedi was given during the Clone Wars, including the hefty task of assassinating Count Dooku with Asajj Ventress's help. With Ventress set to appear in later issues of the comics miniseries, she will be in this miniseries with the Bad Batch. Ventress said miniseries. It seems only fitting that this could be the case for someone like Quinlan Vos. As it stands, however, there aren't any solid details that we know of yet about these ghost agents, though it certainly seems like they are most likely composed of Jedi. So the theory here is that because of this comic issue, that Mace is saying that there's people undercover as ghost agents, inferring Jedi, because if their identities are compromised, they're done. Ghost agents that could be Jedi, that they're referring to Quinlan Vos. And the connection is because of Bode from Jedi Survivor, who said that he was a Jedi Knight who served the Republic intelligence during the Clone Wars by taking various undercover missions. And that looks quite like what he's explaining there. So what are we talking about? This could mean that the next show that's being set up is this Hidden Path series. Now let's keep going. Mace Windu appears to be the head of the Ghost Agency. So let's get into what this really means. Perhaps the largest piece of evidence of the Jedi being these Ghost agents, however, is that that has everything to do with Mace Windu seemingly being their leader. He's the one who gives the Bad Batch their mission face to face on Coruscant, emphasizing the level of secrecy in this process, something that would not have been common knowledge, not even amongst the Jedi Council. Clone Force 99 themselves don't even adhere to regular chain of command. Clone Wars Season 7 sees Hunter refusing to tell the likes of Anakin Skywalker who they report to. So they're reporting directly to Mace Windu, meaning he's likely to be the leader of this command, which makes it even seem more like it's going to be Jedi. It stands to reason, then, that Mace Windu is the key leader for the Special Forces of the Ghost Agents of the Republic, and is likely to oversee the Ghost Agents specifically in addition to various other units, Clone Force 99 included. Hence why he entrusts them specifically with this mission. Windu was revered during the Clone Wars era for his efforts as a tactician, easy for me to say, and his talents with lightsaber combat and other forms of battle are amongst the best. Him serving as the clone agent's leader makes complete sense, given his own reputation for his strength and his brushes with the dark side. Brushes with the dark side. So him being the leader of this Ghost Agency could be indication that there are undercover Jedi like Bode from Jedi Survivor in other areas in the Separatist Alliance. And not only that, it could be Quinlan Vos, and the fact that we're seeing Asajj Ventress later on in this series could indicate that as well. So, let's keep going. This Clone-Off spinoff is just too good to not be made. Let's read it. Honestly, everything about these particular Ghost agents sounds way too fascinating for me, for the story to be left unexplored. If Star Wars is looking for a way to bring back the Clone Wars back to live action for any new refreshing story, this is the best one to pursue. So they're talking about live action here. Honestly, animation would be the way to go for me, but hey, live action would be great too. There is no telling exactly what these Ghost agents would see and do on a regular basis, and it would give audiences such interesting insights as to what the Clone Wars was actually like from this brand new angle, sort of from the bad guys' perspective, from the good guys' perspective, behind enemy lines to an extent. It could even weave in familiar characters from like the Bad Batch, should the opportunity arise. So you could integrate familiar characters all across the board. But honestly, what I think is going on here, which obviously you have the foundation of Quinlan Vos and Bode being there already, but here's the deal. You have the character of Quinlan Vos, who is already undercover in The Phantom Menace. That's why he's in the background when they're on Tatooine. So you already have that character. Now you have the possibility of setting up that character of Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress, who is supposed to be later on in this comic series, to be in a post-prequel, post-Bad Batch series that this could set up. Those Ghost agents that were undercover would likely have survived Order 66, if you think about it that way. So Bode, Quinlan Vos, even Asajj Ventress, those survivors of Order 66, they would have survived because they didn't know that they were Jedi. So the clones wouldn't know that they were Jedi either. So in that scenario, these Ghost agents would eventually become characters that would survive Order 66 and possibly be the hidden path that we see in Kenobi that is brought up in the Jedi games. This also reinforces the idea that the Jedi games, Survivor and Fallen Order, are far more important to the greater story of Star Wars than we ever possibly imagined. Merrin, of course, being a Night Sister, and Cal coming into live action at some point sometime soon, is a big role because of Thrawn and the Night Sisters that are on Dathomir right now. But not only that, now you have Bode being a secret ghost agent that is being brought to life in this comic with the Bad Batch in Mace Windu. in the possibility of having Quinlan Voss also be one of those ghost agents. That's why he's being sent to take down Count Dooku with Asajj Ventress's help. And now you have Asajj Ventress being brought back to life in The Bad Batch Season 3. And Quinlan Voss should be alive as well because you see his name in Kenobi. So you have the opportunity here to tell a number of stories. It could be in the Clone Wars series from the perspective of these ghost agents, or it could be post Bad Batch with the hidden path, where you could have Jedi survivors of Order 66, like a Bode, like a Cal, like a Quinlan, like an Asajj, Baylan Skoll, Grogu, Keller and Beck, etc., all in this hidden path. It could explore even the extended stories of Captain Rex and Echo as they went off without the Bad Batch. Maybe even see where Commander Cody ended up, how they fight back against the Empire even more. I think it's a no-brainer. It sounds great to me. This ghost agent stuff sounds pretty damn cool. And as much as I would love to see a Luke Skywalker animated show, which I do, I really, really do, and it's currently right now winning in the polls, this sounds like a great idea. But tell me in the chat, is this something you would want to see? These ghost agents brought to life, possibly in an animated or live action series? Or would you rather it be a hidden path show where you see those ghost agents become hidden paths? What do we think? Jordan Rennie says out of 50s. Don't worry about it, Jordan. I appreciate it. Says, will the Bad Batch characters tie into Andor Season 2? I don't know. Because Omega does go and join the rebellion as a pilot. So Omega technically could make her first live action appearance in Andor. Actually, I never really thought about that, Jordan. That's a great point. Omega, we've talked about possibly joining in the Mandoverse because of her connection to Hera Syndulla and the fact that she's the only other unaltered clone of Jango Fett, Boba Fett. It's an unaltered clone. So that would make sense too. But if she appeared in Andor Season 2, it would make sense because she's a part of the rebellion. She's a pilot. She doesn't have the Force. She doesn't have a lightsaber, so she doesn't really need to. She wouldn't be out of place in Andor Season 2. I kind of like that. Yeah. Star Edits, what's up? Maggie, how we doing? We need Omega back as a pilot in either or. Oh my God, Jordan, you are absolutely insane. Said, just kidding about the 50s with another $50 holo. A Mace Windu impression, please. Interesting to see which line you choose. You know what I'm going to do for you, Jordan? Because you just sent me five $50 super chats. You're insane. I'm going to do the scene. I'm doing great, Maggie. How are you? I'm going to do the scene where Yoda and Mace are talking about the Sith returning. Yoda and Mace talk Sith. Talk rule of two, I should say. Talk rule of two. Here we go. Let's see. Let's see what I got for you, Jordan. Let's see what I got. Oops.
There's no doubt the mysterious warrior was a Sith.
Always two there are. No more, no less.
There's no doubt the mysterious warrior was a Sith.
Samuel L. Jackson has a very deep voice. Hang on. And a very unique voice. There's no doubt. That's not that deep. There's no doubt. How does he even talk? Hang on, chat. This is a hard one.
There's no doubt.
There's no doubt.
The mysterious warrior was a
The mysterious warrior was a Sith.
Sith.
Always
Always two there are.
two there are.
No more.
No more,
No less.
no less.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Mace Windu is a very, very hard one. I like to incorporate my good-ish Yoda in there too. But I appreciate it, Jordan. I really, really do. Yeah, somebody's been winning at the sabacc table. That's for sure. I don't know what that is, but I appreciate it, Jordan. I really, really do. That's absolutely insane. Okay, but where were we? Let's get back to this. So, since I was so rudely interrupted, Can't even joke about it anymore because Jordan's just going to send me another $50. And I can't even comprehend that much money. But having said that, when you look at what's to come next with the animated side of the Star Wars story, you have something. You have the opportunity to go in many, many different directions. As the poll even says, there's at least 3 great options there. A Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple show would be awesome. A Clone Rebellion show following Captain Rex, following Commander Cody will be awesome. A Hidden Path show with these ghost agents that were hidden Jedi in the Separatists, like Bode, like possibly Quinlan Voss, Asajj Ventress. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But tell me what you think of the chat. Tell me what you think of it. Thanks for the great impression. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. I don't think I'll get copy struck for that. Even if I do, I can cut out the sort of 2 seconds that it plays, you know? Yeah. By the way, this poll right now is pretty damn close. Actually, right now, Hidden Path show and Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple show are tied. They're both tied right now, which is pretty wild. Pretty dang wild. There was something else I wanted to get to here. Oh yeah, Andor. We got to talk Andor season 2 before we get out of here. Oh, and one more thing too. So they just voted on, I don't know how they did it. So Variety made a list of the 100 greatest TV performances of the 21st century. So over the last 25 years, top 100 TV performances. Now, there's one on the list that is Star Wars related. I'm going to let you guys guess. If you know, don't ruin it for everybody else. Just guess. Top 100 TV performances in the last 21st century. So for the last 25 years. And it's a Star Wars performance. It's a Star Wars performance. What do we think? Who is it, chat? Cassian Andor? Luthen or Kino Loy? You guys are definitely on the right track. Mandalorian? No. It's not Cassian. Should be Luthen. Grogu? I don't think that works. He doesn't speak. Balin Skull, that's a good one. I would put that in the running. I don't know if the whole list is released, but number 85 on the list of best TV performances over the last 25 years is Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen in Andor. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So I haven't actually taken a look at this list. Let's see. Does it have all 100 up? I'd love to know what's number 1. Let's see. Oh, wait, I'm going the wrong way then. I'm going the wrong way. All right, we're in the top 20. I've never seen that. Oh, this is a good one. This should be higher than this. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you know that Peter Dinklage's, easy for me to say, performance is really good. Let's just get to the top 10 here. Top 10. Top 10 performances of Michael Scott. That's pretty good. At number 12. All right, top 10 performances in the 21st century on TV. Grey's Anatomy. This seems like I've never seen Grey's Anatomy, but this seems like I don't know. So many people watch this show. So many people love this show. I don't know. Might be speaking out of context, but this seems like just a longevity thing. Like it says she was on the show for 9 years. That's a long time. 9 of the 25 years. Number 9. Oh, the girl from Better Call Saul. That's true. That's a good one. Yeah, she's good. I mean, Better Call Saul is a very, very good show. Really? the captain from Brooklyn Nine-Nine at number 8. To put a comedy series in there that high that isn't Michael Scott is pretty difficult to do. All right, number 8. Number 7. Not only have I never seen this show, I've never even heard of this show. So I don't know about that one. Number 6, The Wire I have heard of, but I've never seen it. So I can't, again, say anything about this. But I have heard The Wire is a really, really good show, so it makes sense that he would be on this list. Bryan Cranston, okay, he deserves to be top 5 easily. Lisa Kudrow? The Comeback? I didn't even know this was a thing. And it's number 4 all time. Mad Men. Mad Men was a huge show. Never watched it either, but that deserves to be on here. Succession was a huge show too, so that makes sense. All right, who do we think is number 1? Who do we think is number 1, Chad? I have no idea. I would have put maybe Bryan Cranston from Better Call Saul. I don't know. I couldn't even guess. Does anybody have a guess? Sid. Oh my God. Sid from The Bad Batch. Sopranos. Ooh, Tony Soprano. Didn't that start in the 90s though? Maybe I'm not. No, maybe not. James, what's his name? James Gandolfini. That would be a good one. That'd be a good one. Grogu. That'd be a good one too. All right, let's see it. Who's number 1? Moment of truth. What? Okay, I got to be honest. I've heard of Veep. Didn't even know Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in Veep. And I've never seen Veep. Best performance in the 21st century goes to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Wow. Hey, I don't even know. I've never seen it, so I can't say. But there you go. There it is. I've never seen it. Maybe I'll have to go watch it now. If they claim to be the greatest performance of the 21st century, 85 spots ahead of Luthen, it's got to be pretty damn good. Okay. But let's take so the reason we think that Andor Season 2's trailer is coming very soon is obviously because the show's coming very soon and we need a trailer for the show. But also because recently on StarWars.com, Lucasfilm has updated the Season 2 part of Andor Season 2, or the Andor Season 2 part of the website. So they put up these 12 pictures. I think they were already here, but the 12 pictures that were released months and months and months ago from that Empire magazine. You got Tony Gilroy and Mon Mothma there. You got Cassian in the cockpit of a TIE fighter, it looks like. Again, same thing. You got Cyril not eating cereal, disappointed, but he is on Coruscant with Dedra. Luthen. Bix and Andor looking like a little love scene going on there. He's got the slick back hair. Looks like a sort of a detective going on there. Dedra again. Mon again. Luthen and Mon Mothma with stormtroopers behind them. I remember when this came out, we talked about it quite a bit, but this is pretty wild. Yeah. Pretty wild. Our boy, Orson Krennic. So Ben Mendelsohn is back. We knew this was coming. Pretty damn wild. I just really hope that it's done correct. Oh my God. Jordan, at some point we're going to have to cut you off. I mean, this is crazy. What whose credit card did you steal? Jordan, with another $50 hauler? Are you kidding me? You are crazy. He says Queel was robbed from that list. That's true. But Queel does die in the first season. So 8 seasons versus 1. I mean, Jordan has to be Mike's mom at this point. Honestly, might be. I gotta call my mom to ask her if she changed her name to Jordan Rennie and see what's going on there. That's crazy. Jordan, it's still early in 2025, but right now you are the front runner for most ever super chatted in 2025. Yeah. Yeah, I think. Oh, you know what it is? Jordan might be in control of Atten. Huh. Maybe that's good. That makes sense. See, now I can take Samantha out to a nice dinner tomorrow, and it'll be fantastic. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, he stole the Old Republic mint. Duh. Obviously. All right, I'm gonna end this poll. End this poll. 70, not 70, 37% of you guys said Hidden Path show. So that one took the lead. 32% said Luke Skywalker Jedi Temple. 21% said Clone Rebellion, and 7% said other. So Hidden Path did take the lead after sort of we read that article. Pretty dang cool. Pretty dang cool. Well, this was quite the stream. Jordan lost his mind. I lost my mind about the whole Rey thing because it's ridiculous. And we looked at some Andor Season 2 stuff and what could possibly be the next animated show. All right, but I do have to get on out of here. I got to go finish the short for today. It's a pretty good one, actually, if I do say so myself. The What If is coming great. I'm getting towards the end of the script, and then I got to record and edit it and stuff. Hopefully get it out by Sunday. Now thinking about it, it's going to be a busy weekend. Shit. But we'll figure it out. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Trailer tomorrow, hopefully. Some people are saying that they want a trailer for Andor Season 2 tomorrow. I doubt it. I mean, it would be nice, but I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But until then, oops. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Smash a freaking like on the stream if you have not already. Hit that subscribe. Hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video in my pretty face. Show up the recommended feed of yours. Huge shout outs to Star Wars Democracy for hitting the 1,000 subscribers. That's pretty damn awesome. And enormous shout outs to Jordan Rennie and also Jordan Rennie and Jordan Rennie, by the way, and Jordan Rennie. Darth Plagueis lives as well, and the mind of Lucas. I appreciate all the super chats. I really, really do. Jordan, you've lost your goddamn mind, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I really, really do. But until then, smash a freaking like on the stream. How many likes do we have, chat? Am I going to be upset? Am I going to be upset? No, I'm not. Okay, I appreciate it. Smash a freaking like if you have not already. Hit that subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video in my pretty face. Show up in the recommended feed of yours. May the force be with you. Always. Oh, yeah. What a great stream. What a great show. You guys are the absolute best. I appreciate you all so much more than you will ever know. But until next time, until Saturday's stream, actually, we got to stream Saturday. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.